All right. Hi, guys. Happy Monday. Here's what you're going to have happen today. You are going to get your image, and it's going to look like this, out of the folder here that says Fifth Hour Landscapes with Names. So this is anybody who uploaded their photo or photos by the end of Friday, okay? If you weren't here on Friday, or if you didn't have a chance to get a photo uploaded, you are going to need to take a landscape out of this purple folder, and there are all kinds of options in here, different kinds of landscapes that you can choose from. I think there are 12 of you, and I have quite a few more than 12 in the folder, so you should have a very good option of landscape photos for your use in class. From there, you're going to get a piece of the watercolor paper. It is in a pile on the countertop under where it says painting. So you'll want to grab one of these sheets of watercolor paper. You'll also need a sheet of this transfer paper, and that is also on the counter under where it says drawing or painting one down at the end. And you can see it's in a big folder here that says transfer sheets. These transfer sheets are reusable, so when you finish using yours today, you can just bring it back and put it in the folder. They don't go bad for a really long time. You'll also need your board and some tape, but that step will come later. And you'll need a couple of paper clips. This is also on the counter under where it says painting. So here's what you're gonna do. You are going to need to make sure you keep both of these. So I recommend that you take and put your name on both. I have your name on one or the other. And I'm going to take my sheet of painting paper, and I'm going to put that at the bottom, and I'm going to take my transfer paper and I'm going to put it over the top. I want to make sure that my transfer paper is the darker side down. So you can see that one side of this is lighter, one side is darker. This is basically a piece of like tissue or tracing paper that's been coated in pencil dust, graphite. And then what I'm going to do, so I've got my watercolor paper, my transfer paper, darker side down, and then I'm going to take my photo, the black and white one, and I'm going to put it over the top. This photograph over the top, you'll notice that the photo is a little bit smaller than my piece of watercolor paper. I can adjust. So I have this farm here, and I have some background space, and I've got these flowers in the foreground. And I could slide this just down a little bit and over, just to kind of give me a little bit more room for some sky and just have a little bit less like flowery things. So this is you kind of adjusting and controlling your composition. You have to decide where you're gonna put this photo now. So I'm gonna just slide mine a little bit down and off the page because I just want a little bit more sky, a little less of that grass to paint. And then what I'm gonna do is just take my paper clips and I'm going to clip it. A lot of people find that clipping it on two sides is useful. I'm just gonna go ahead and clip it on one. This graphite paper will transfer anything that you, even touch. So if you touch it a lot, it will transfer. I'm actually not gonna trace my clouds because I'm just gonna be able to paint clouds. We've painted clouds now a couple of times. So I'm not gonna worry about the clouds. But what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and I'm tracing all the elements that I need to make my landscape. Like this tree back here, this pine tree, I'm gonna paint a bigger one. So I'm like not gonna trace that. So you get those like options as you are making this trace happen. And I do recommend that before you do too much. So I've done a few lines, just gonna hang on to this and I'm gonna peek. So what this allows me to do is check one, if I'm pressing hard enough, and check two, if I have everything like the right way around. That way I'm not tracing a bunch of stuff that will just be on the back of my photo. You'll also see that when I'm tracing, I am tracing all the things that I think I'm gonna need to make a great painting, which means I'm gonna trace some of the shadows that are here. I am gonna just trace a little bit like this edge. This grassy stuff, I'm not gonna trace a lot of it because that I know I'm just gonna be able to paint. So we've been practicing landscapes for quite a while, and you have some skills in terms of like making some things happen kind of from your imagination, just because that's how we've been working so far. I do want this tree, and I do want it to be big. I do not want to color anything in. But what I am gonna do is just trace, and I'm not gonna trace like all of the branches. What I'm basically doing is just tracing where it's lighter and darker. So I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Kind of going around this outside edge. Trees come so many different ways. I don't need to trace everything, right? Some of those transfer marks will always kind of show through the watercolor too, so I kind of don't want a ton of them, but I need enough of them that I can make a good painting from it. So at a certain point, the quality of your transfer does affect your painting. I am gonna skip this little building. I get to do that, it's my decision. It doesn't really add anything to my finished like composition. So I'm gonna show you what this tree looks like right now. And you can see it's basically just like the edges of where the tree sits. There's this one branch here. Maybe could put a couple of trunks in. And I haven't been pressing hard enough apparently, so it barely shows up, but that'll be fine later. It's just enough so that I can kind of see where the tree was in my photo. Like I said, this guy I'm just gonna paint in on my own. Just kind of make a spot for it. Now I'm down here to this grassy stuff. I do not want to trace all of this grassy grass. I'm going to just paint that stuff in. What I am going to trace are some of these like closer flowery kind of moments that are here. These details that are going to be my focal point. So I'm gonna go around these guys that are up front, just so I have a reference of where those little guys are. The rest of that is just gonna be me painting and using some paper towel and making some washes. So I'm just gonna give myself just a guide here for where some of these flowers are, some of these more close flowers. And like I said, some of the rest of this, I'm just gonna kind of wing it a little bit, just because I know I've had some practice. We've all had some practice. And I also know that it doesn't do me any good to trace every little blade of grass. It makes it confusing later on when I try to paint. I'm gonna paint this big weed here at the front though, or draw it. So an important thing to think about is like, which parts are you simplifying, right? What are you getting rid of in your painting? And that's perfectly okay that you choose to get rid of some things. I'm not even gonna trace every single flower here. I'm gonna like skip a few of those. And while I paint, I'll look at my reference photo. So before I take my paper clip completely off, I'm just gonna check and see what this looks like. And you can see I've got some idea of the flowers at the front. Looks like I missed this edge at the roof. Just want to make sure I get all of those edges on there. And the shadows. Skipping this other building. I think I'm set. So you can see I have a map, but it's not super complicated map. So it's a little like when we painted the cabin in the woods. I have some of the bigger elements. A lot of the rest of the things in my painting are going to be painted just by me, like the clouds. Like I said, I'm going to put a bigger pine tree in here. And then this bottom section will be mostly green, and I'll paint some of these flowers as kind of my detail, like foreground. So if I think about background, middle ground, foreground, background is this tree back here, middle ground is this building, foreground are these flowers, and that's what makes up my landscape painting. So you're gonna go ahead and transfer first. Once you transfer, you're gonna go ahead and take your paper and your board, and you're going to tape it. And you're going to tape it all the way around. So you want to tape the edges all the way around so that your paper stays flat. You want to make sure that you hang on to your photos so that you have them to work through the next steps. So that's transferring your photo.